PR Connections Radio presents
Good afternoon and welcome back to Cozy Up and Pay Attention, Season 2, the Parent Edition. And once again, I have another wonderful parent who has dedicated her cause to raising more responsible adults. If you would give us a few minutes, I'd like you please to inhale, exhale, and we'll be right back.
Cozy Stone is a multi-talented comedian extraordinaire who has a real lust for life. She also combines humor and motivation, where she is known as a humorvational speaker. Her youthful ways and positive light make her a beacon for those of all ages. Cozy has lived a remarkable life that has paved the way for so many. She had the longest running open mic venue of 11 years at Tommy Rockers in Vegas, called Cozy's Comedy Corner, through which she introduced many up-and-coming comedians. Before going into comedy, she was one of the first female personal trainers and one of the top fitness trainers in the world. She has trained many greats such as Billie Jean King, Roberta Flack, Andrew Young, Ed Bradley, CCH Pounder, Al Pacino, and Earl Monroe. As a former competitive bodybuilder, she also owned a bodybuilding gym for women over 40 in Los Angeles for several years. She has worked in top positions for HBO, Playboy, and Tony Robbins. She also enjoys volunteer work, dedicating time to the New York Foundling Hospital and babies with AIDS. Cozy Stone has a message that shouldn't be missed.
I'm back. And she brought you on before I said, would you please give me my guest? Today we have wonderful Sonya Williams, who's going to be with us and share her adventure, her journey of bringing her responsible adults to fruition. Before we get started, Sonya, I always like to say to my guests, there are lots of books on the shelf about parenting, but none of them are particularly pertain to the practices that you should have for your children. We know there's no such thing as perfect parents. I don't think there's a parent who would ever say, oh, I was the perfect parent. And last but not least, this show has nothing to do with parent shaming. We want to highlight, promote, and market good parenting. I happen to think it's one of the most important jobs in the world, bar none. And it gives me a pleasure every week to bring on parents like yourself. And so thank you for sharing your time with us today. Before we get started, I need to know, or we want to tell the audience a little bit about you. So let's talk about your parents. Where were they born and raised? Where did they meet? And how old was your mom when she had her first child?
Okay, so my mom and dad, my mom is from Beaumont, Texas, and my dad is from Yates, Missouri, which is a small town in Missouri. Now, they met through a cousin of my mom. So it was kind of like that setup thing. And that's how they met and dated, dated under the radar for a little bit. And then what was the last question? So where they met.
How old was your mom when she had her first child?
So my mom would have been 18 years old. Okay. Yes, 18.
All right. And I don't know if I want to hit under the radar, but what did under the radar? You brought it up. What did that mean?
So they kind of, back then the setup was, you can date, but, you're going to be accompanied by, your other cousins. And it's a little bit different now, depending on, so they were kind of like, yeah.
and yet, because they were under the radar, she still got pregnant at 18.
Look, just saying. Yeah, they started out young way back when, right?
It's okay. Lots of people start off.
Yes, absolutely.
That's no big deal.
Right.
Do you know how old your dad was?
So he was 3 years older than my mom. So he would have been, 21?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. And are you their first child?
No. I'm the youngest out of 6. Out of 7, actually. Yes.
All right. So I'd like to just concentrate on your mother's first child. And now let's move forward.
Yes.
And so where were you born? Where was your husband born? Where did you meet? and then I'll ask another question.
Okay, I was born in KC, Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri. My husband was born in Savannah, Georgia, and I was 21 when we met, and my husband actually was 20.
And where did you meet?
And we met out clubbing. We were
Okay,
out at a club
where?
in Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay.
Yes.
So his family moved to, he's from, but his family moved to Kansas City, and that's where you met.
No, he was in the military army. So he was traveling and he was stationed there at a little base. He was actually in the reserves, Army reserves when we met. And that's how we met. He was out on a weekend and I was out, and hey, that's how we met.
Okay, so give me one more time. And you were how old?
When we met, I was 21 and he was 20.
All right. And so he
hmm
was in the service, and
Yes.
were you in school? Were you
No, no,
just
no. At that time, I was working full time for ophthalmologists there in Kansas City, Missouri. I
and
had just actually moved back from Jacksonville, Florida. That's another story. So yes,
how long did you date before did you get pregnant first or married first? Which came first?
married. We dated 3 years.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So you had what's called a planned pregnancy.
Sort of.
No,
I
no,
didn't.
no. My distinction, when you're married, you're planning a family. Now, whether you wanted it right at that
Right.
moment, the fact
Right.
of the
Right.
matter is, you're two consulting adults that decided at some point we're going to have a kid,
Yes.
whether it oops or not, right? It's
Yes.
two consulting
Absolutely.
adults who are prepared to bring a child into the world. Is
Yes.
that fair?
Yes. Fair
Okay.
enough.
All right. So you're out clubbing when you saw this man. Now, here's a back question. I'm starting.
hmm
When you were a little girl, Sonia, did you aspire to be a parent?
I did. I wanted kids.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
along with those kids, that you want to have a family.
Yes. Absolutely.
So what I'm
Yes.
learning, there are plenty of women who want to
hmm
have a baby and
hmm
necessarily don't want the man. So if he stays, he does, but they want to have a
Right.
baby, and that's fair. So you
Right. Right.
wanted a child and you wanted a family.
hmm Yes.
Yes. So this man comes in the club, or you come in the club, or however you guys look at each other. We know that initial attraction is everything. So was it his
hmm
brains, his brawn, or his beauty that you became attracted to?
I would say bronze, but I would say, excuse me, I would say brains, but I'm gonna say bronze.
He was built.
Yeah, he was built for
Did
sure.
you did you know at that, not just that moment,
hmm
so you got together, you exchanged numbers, you started going out. At some point, did you say, he could be a candidate for father of my children or husband?
Oh, absolutely. In the 3 years of dating,
Got it.
yes, I
Okay.
definitely, could see myself. I don't think I would have stayed in the relationship 3 years of dating, right? If that was my goal, was to
Yes.
eventually have him. So
Okay.
absolutely,
Okay.
yes.
All right. So when you get the news that you're going to be with child, yes, you wanted to have a child, you're married, you're planning your family. How did it strike you? Was it fear or fantasy?
Oh, okay. Let's see. I would say more fantasy than fear. I wasn't really scared about having kids. I kind of was shocked because I wasn't at that time. Yes, I had planned. We thought about having kids, but didn't know it was going to happen that quick. I said, "OMG, I'm only 25." So it was so, even though you're married and everything, it was just like, "Whoa, okay."
Well, that's why I like to ask the question.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh."
Even when you're planning it,
Mhm. Mm.
families or we're going to have kids with, but when you hit the news, it's got to be exhilarating,
Mhm.
scary. For the young girls, it's always fantasy,
Yes.
that kind of
Oh,
thing.
yes.
That's why I asked.
Mhm.
So now you had your family. Where were you both living at this point?
Still in Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay, so you
Mhm.
did have a support
Oh,
system.
yeah. Yeah. My parents were, like, super close, access down the street. watch the kids while they were growing up. So they were there, just extremely supportive. One of my sisters was still in Missouri. So another support system, even if it was on the phone, phone call, not necessarily seen all the
Mhm.
time, but just having family
Yeah,
was super
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I've had the other parents on here, the last two couples,
Mm-hmm.
they weren't close to their family, but their church
Wow.
became family. People
See?
need support.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
that one little baggage causes
Yeah.
a lot of
Yes.
noise,
Yep. A
um,
lot of questions.
a lot of questions, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
unanswered, the unknown.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The unknown.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So he's raised in his home in his city with his parents.
Mm-hmm.
You're raised in another part of the country with your parents. When you get together, you're under one roof, you've got this family.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the sameness that you brought to each other or brought to your children or brought to more the parenting part, not the
Mm-hmm.
relationship part, the parent
Right.
that
Right.
you both wanted to give because this is what you were given?
uh Values and discipline in the sense, instructing, your kids right from wrong, and just lots of love
Yeah, the
towards
love.
them. The
Okay,
love.
right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
definitely the love.
sometimes, and this is one that I'm
Hmm.
very familiar with. Some parents don't believe in, and we're not talking about abuse, because
Yes.
the word
Right.
you use of
Yes.
discipline,
Yes.
you
Hmm.
know, she may
Hmm.
not believe in discipline because her parents did too much, and he thought his
Yes.
parents were more disciplined. So that you get under the same roof, and that
Hmm.
can cause a little havoc if
Yes.
communication isn't there. So I like to ask that question because, again, it's one of those many things. There's so many unknowns with raising a child, and then
Hmm.
you've got two different people under one roof, and now you've got this
Right.
third stranger putting these. It's a lot.
Yes. Yes.
Give you an idea of why I put these questions together.
Oh, yeah, finding common ground.
So for your family, your household only,
Hmm.
what were one or two things, Sonia, that you can hear? I call it chatter that your mom or father said to you that you have used while you were raising your children.
Was to always to treat others with respect as we would want to be treated. That's something that was instilled in my household and just carried through.
All right.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
chances are you will hear that when they start. Do you have grandchildren yet?
Zero.
Okay. So whenever they do, if they do,
Yes.
chances are you will hear it
Right.
because the unfortunately the good learning carries forth, and unfortunately sometimes the bad learning
Mhm.
carries forth.
Mhm. Oh,
This
yeah.
show is about the good learning, so
Yes, right?
that. All right. So let's get into your questions. We
Okay.
are still on time. Your first question that you chose, Sonia, is: did you know your children's friends and why?
Absolutely knew their friends. And the reason why is because number one, I wanted to know, good company corrupts good habit, or bad company corrupts good habit, rather, and vice versa. So, what are the values of the kids? How are they being raised? How are the parents? If my kids are going to be over there, how are they going to be treated? And discernment played along very well in that respect. So, I definitely wanted to be a part of who they were hanging around and their friends. That's going to have an effect on your child, and vice versa. The way we're raising our kids can have an effect on their children. So my husband and I were upfront about, certain rules that we had and what we're going to be established. And we had, just those things we want to establish early on. So we were very, very aware of who their kids, their friends were.
Did you also meet, if not all, most of their parents?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because it just, and a lot of those things, like you're saying, your parents, what they did, and how my parents were a little bit more strict.
Hmm.
Having three boys, three girls. So it was just, they were more strict with the girls. So those things, and depending on the child too, had a lot to do with it. But
Hmm.
definitely building a relationship with the parents, like the moms. Hey, let's have a cup of coffee.
Hmm.
Just like finding some common ground, because I'm like, that's gonna really like affect your child as well.
Yes, it will.
So yeah. So we made sure we were very active, played an active part in knowing the parents as well.
All right, folks,
Mhm.
that's why you want to know your people's, your children's friends, and you want to
So
know
yeah.
their families. So just
Yeah.
giving us the answers. Your next question is, did you attend parent-teacher meetings, and tell us why that was so important?
Yeah, absolutely. We believed in attending all the parent teachers meetings because, I don't know about other parents, but I find sometimes we as parents may say, well, the teacher's not doing this, or, oh, my child's failing and it's the end of the year. If you're not aware of what's going on, then you're not going to know how, as a parent, who you bore that child, you're raising your children, how you could have been, effective in their overall outcome of their educational. I mean, education is going to take them far, or maybe not if you're not really active. So I don't want to blame a teacher without us having some type of involvement. So, well, we were the type of parents that would show up and, hey, we'll participate and sit in the classroom today. Do you mind? Just to be aware. You can't blame anybody if you're not being an active adult as a parent. So that's all I got to say about that.
Sonia said it again. And your next question is, I'm going to give you a C word, and you'll tell me
Mhm.
the one you practice the most. The most. Choices, consequences, consistency, or compassion. Which,
Compassion.
all right, and give me more.
And I believe compassion because I was thinking about that when I'm like, ooh, it kind of goes back to, like, yeah, the environment in every place, like the way you were raised. Like, I remember how my mother instilled and acted with compassion. And I think the child is going to be more receiving with compassion than if you're totally strict or a certain way. That way your heart's open. You can look, how was my parents, treating me? And love goes a long way, a lot further than hate. So I'm gonna, treat my child with compassion so they know, this voice is loving, this correction is coming from a place of love, not
Mhm.
hate. And I think that way, they understand they can come, they're more open, more to able to receive, and more open in that communication and relationship with us as their parents. So that's why we always showed compassion.
I read something on Facebook today.
Mhm.
A father put a note. He instructed his children. I'm going to put this
Mhm.
note in the top drawer. And what the note
Mhm.
pretty much said was, if at any time you need to talk to me about anything, know that I am available. I want to talk. We should talk, and there will be no judgment. All you have to do is go in the drawer and hand me the note.
I love it. Oh, that's good.
I read that this morning.
That's really and that's the reason. It's because they
That's
know even now.
that's powerful.
Very.
You've already given them the comfortability,
Mhm.
the ability to open up without any judgment. And they need, and when they open it up, chances are when they need you the most,
Mhm.
right?
Mm.
Oh
Mm.
yes.
That's powerful.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it
If
is.
anyone's listening, write a letter, put it in the top drawer for
Yeah.
the kids. That's a safety note, and
Mhm.
it takes care of what could be
Yeah.
catastrophe down the line.
Yes, that's great. Love it.
Your next question is sort of goes a little bit we talked about, but you can
Mhm.
your parenting style, was it permissive? I don't want. I'm going to leave it at two.
Okay.
Permissive or authoritative? Which style do you believe you had?
Ooh.
Or if there's something else that you want
No,
to.
I think it was more permissive. And the reason why I say permissive with boundaries, right? There's permissive with boundaries because I believe in parenting, especially when they're young, if you permit certain things, then that way they're more likely to be able to learn. That's just part of the child maturing, growing. If you don't allow them permit certain things or certain decisions to be made, then they will never learn. You'll always be there and you're going to make them more codependent than independent. That's at least for our household. So,
Can you off the top of your head, because I try not to
mhm,
do this, but can
sure.
you think of an example off the top of your head with one of your kids that you
Mm,
did?
I can. One was with my son when he was in middle school, and I remember him and my husband having a discussion after he had hung out with some of these kids. They went to like a convenience store, which we had already instructed not to do because, again, it's who you're hanging around. Two of the
Mhm.
kids went in there, they shoplift, they weren't caught. However, he shared with us, he was open enough because, like that note handed, right? That gentleman said he knew he could come to us. And we just said, you know what? We allowed him to learn. It wasn't like, oh, you're in punishment, da da da, whatever. But we said we raised them like every consequence, every decision you make, rather, has a consequence. So that was permissive in allowing him to see, okay, now you tell us, what did you learn from this, right? You're allowing them to have feedback instead of, oh, yeah, see, you're stupid. It wasn't any of that verbal attack or anything. It was like, this is a learning, tool right now. This is a situation where it could have turned out not for your good. But thank God somebody's watching over you. But he learned from that. So we had to allow it.
Yeah. And better learn it in middle school than high school.
Absolutely. Or adulthood. Just saying.
Right?
Yeah,
Or any time thereafter.
absolutely.
And you're absolutely correct. The other thing is if we as parents or adults can
Hmm.
explain to children their consequences of their actions.
Absolutely.
I'm around kids. In fact, I just submitted an application for a
Hmm.
teenage home before the show today. I hope they call me.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I have to be in front of kids. And I really
Oh,
want to be in front of young teenage
yes.
with moms. There,
Yes. That would
it's
be
so what?
amazing.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a so what? So what do you want to do about it from this point
Hmm.
forward?
Hmm.
That's great. That's great.
Yes. Yes.
So your last question, and we are moving along wonderfully.
Yay.
Tell me, Miss Sonia, what did
Hmm.
you find was the hardest thing about parenthood?
Actually, the hardest thing I believe for parenting was because if you have more than one, is working with each personality, each child. I mean, because it's different. I'm sure it's different if you have one, but we had three. So this child was this way, da da da, whatever, and they all have their own individuality. So it was like actually that and releasing them to move on to different stages in life. Like sometimes you just want to, don't do that, don't make that mistake. But it's like, no, you have to allow them to
Right,
make that mistake, as I made mention before, in
right,
order for them to learn. And
right.
sometimes you already know because those are things like you were like, duh, I've already done that, been there, done that, and it's like you hate to see your child fail. And it's really, they're not really failing, they're actually learning, they're actually maturing. But that is like a woo. That's a you just want to like grab and say, "Nah, don't do that." Or so but that was probably the hardest,
Yeah.
thing as a parent is really like releasing them and letting them just like open up and like a butterfly and just take off,
And as
you
you
know.
said, these are three different personalities.
Mhm.
Twins don't have the same personality. They may
That's
think the
right.
same, dress the same, but
Right.
they're still three individual entities in their own body.
That's
And that's
right.
why at the beginning of the show, when I said there's no such thing as a perfect parent, and there are no such things in the book as the best practices per child,
Mhm.
because each child is going to be different. And then there's that product inside of each of us called the DNA. And so they've got some of you, they've got some of your
That's
husband,
right.
they've got some of your grandparents, they've got some of
Mhm.
your, and you brought these strangers for a minute
Mhm. Yes.
into your home, and you're all strangers
Mhm.
as you're learning about one another.
Yes.
That same kid that, even though I don't have kids, I always tease people and say I think everyone should have more than one, so they can enjoy or have the experience of two different personalities. You always hear
Mhm.
mother say, "Oh, well, this kid went to sleep. You fed him. He went to sleep, never cried."
It's
the
true.
other the other one cried.
Look.
Oh, not long. Never
Mhm.
wanted to go to
That's
sleep,
right.
right?
That's right. Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
you don't have the one parent and one kid I think is quite fine. But as
Yeah.
you said, once you give birth to
Mhm.
more than one child, three, four, now you've got three, four personalities uh,
Yes.
under the same roof with your own distinct
Mhm.
personalities. blah, 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 blah,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now,
Yes.
well, with all said and done, you have three responsible adults who are out of your house, who are taking care of themselves. Whatever protocol you had in place, punishment, disciplines, under the umbrella of love, it came to fruition. Um, I believe, and I say this every week, I can say what I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
So the ultimate, there's Michelle. The ultimate,
I love it.
the ultimate reward, part of the ultimate reward of success
Mm-hmm.
is to get them out your house.
Mm-hmm.
It's for them, not you, to get them out. We're not saying throw your children out the house.
Right. Right.
For them to say, you've taught me how to fly. You've given me my wings. Watch me go.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's
Yes.
not to say that the parent, as parents, your kids, something life happens.
Right.
You're there to help pick them up until they can get their wings flying again. That's not what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
so what?
Yes.
And I don't care if they're 30, 40, or 50. So what?
Yes.
It,
Right. Right.
it happens.
Yeah.
But they know they're there for a temporary period of time. When
Mm-hmm.
I was doing speaking at with the middle school kids, that's my favorite group. And
Uh,
I would say to them, "Do you really want to hear your parent tell you to take the garbage out and make your bed
yeah.
for the rest of your life?"
Womp 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 womp.
I call it, "Nyah, nyah, nyah, nyah." I would actually do that. "Nyah, nyah, nyah, nyah."
Yeah, that's just,
Do you really want to be 24, 25, and 30? And you don't have autonomy. This is still their house.
yes.
Um, that room of yours, that's their new workout room.
Yeah, right? Oh, yeah.
Mom is sewing in that room, and now you've taken up her sewing room. Point is valid. Things
Mm-hmm.
happen, life happens.
Yes, yes.
But when parents put in the work, put in the time, put in the love, the sacrifice, and the support that is necessary, what a wonderful experience. What again, we thank you. I like to say society thanks you for
Mm-hmm.
you and your husband. Tell him I said thank you as
Oh,
well.
I sure will. Yeah, he'll like that.
Let's do your fun question.
Oh, okay.
All right, Miss Sonia, since I've really never met you until right now,
Right?
tell me and tell all of us, how would your friends describe you?
Okay. Energizer bunny.
Okay.
I'm like I am. I'll speak to anything, anybody. I'm like always energetic.
Okay.
So I actually have a write up, a little here. My friend said, this girl has more energy than a tiny baby quail that runs so fast you'll miss them when they fly by to catch up with their mom. LOL. I was like, no, you didn't. This is for a networking event. I'm like, are you kidding? But
Okay.
I said, I never even thought I wouldn't have done that comparison like a little baby quail. But
Mhm.
okay.
Okay.
So yeah, that's how my friends, fun loving. I love people. If you don't want to be my friend, so what? There's somebody else.
Right.
But yeah, I
I
believe
love it.
that's how they describe me.
Well, I'm also smiling at last week. I had another parent, and that was her question. And I'm laughing that you folks are actually calling your friends and tell me about me. I
That
want
what?
you to tell me about you. But hear me out. I respect that.
Oh,
I respect that. I'll give you an exercise that I did years ago. I do comedy, and I had one of my anniversary shows, and so I'm always thinking of doing something different. Here's an exercise for you and anyone who's listening. Ask your friends to send you one word to describe you.
ooh. Okay, I'm gonna do that.
I still have it, and I use it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was it was heartfelt. It was so honoring to hear these wonderful things. I thought everybody was just going to say crazy, and they didn't.
That's what you thought about yourself, right?
I
Yeah.
really did. I said, yeah, I am very crazy. I expected crazy. I think one person, I believe only one person said crazy. I said, wow. And nobody said the B word. Wow, I guess I've done okay.
Look, woo, woo, woo.
It's gratifying and
Yeah.
reconfirming to know what your place is
Mhm.
and how you've placed yourself in this world among others.
Mm.
What we
So
say, we
true.
don't live in the world alone.
Mm.
It's nice if we can get along with others. It's better if we can make a difference in the lives of others, which is what I strive to achieve every day. As you
Yes.
see in the mornings, you're now on the list. Make sure to let me
Yay.
know if you don't want to be on the list. I can just write stop.
Keep me on there.
Before we go any further, I am also an author, self-published author on Amazon. So I would encourage you and ask you to please support me and go on Amazon. They're called Cozyisms, The Art of Paying Attention. These are one-liners, Sonya. One-liners. It's not a novel. I don't have time to write a novel. I'm too busy. One-liners. They're funny. They make you think. They make you
Mhm.
laugh. And they're
Yes.
accompanied with art from two friends that offered to be a part of my book.
Ah, so nice.
Folks, we are on here. We're here unless God knows something I don't. Every Tuesday at 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. If you or someone you know, and I need men as well, single, I like to have single women who've decided consciously they just want to raise kids. I think they should be heard from as well.
Mhm.
You can reach me at cozy up and pay attention at gmail.com. Again, every Tuesday, 2 o'clock here. And then the show can be found on prconnections.com on YouTube. So we ask you to subscribe and follow us and please share as you do everything else that may not have as much substance as my show. And yes, I said that out loud and I mean it. So before we say our goodbyes, I always like to end the show with saying, Sonya, you've shared. We're grateful. I don't have to tell you you've done a great job. They're out of the house. Um, I think there's a lot to be learned from what you shared with us today for anyone who needs some help, because sometimes we all do. And sometimes, folks, when, oh my God, I had just had a brain. When you know better, mhm, you do better. And again, unless God knows something I don't, I'll see all of you again next week.